to another episode of the IBC Guys. I'm Dave. Got a kind of a topic today that came from talking with somebody. Um, so they created this episode. We'll put it that way. I asked them if they wanted credit. They told me no. I told them it's too good to pass up, so we're going to talk about it today on the podcast. But before we jump into it, this podcast exists for three reasons. One is to get the information about IBC out to the masses, to anybody we can. We would much rather someone make a decision about IBC having the knowledge and understanding about it than to make the decision it's yes or no for me. So rather than someone else telling you, got into a discussion with somebody who had a financial person with disparaging perceptions of IBC. I said, let's talk. I'd be happy to talk with this person. So we got on a call, the three of us, and had an interesting conversation. But I bring that up because this person didn't have the client, let's call them, not the financial guy. I guess I'm a financial guy. I don't like to consider myself that. I'm just talking about IBC. But the two financial guys had different opinions, and the client, let's call them, didn't really have a working understanding of each perspective. So I think it was enlightening for this person. That's what we want on the podcast. We want you to have an understanding. So that's the first reason. The second reason is to give implementable, applicable examples. So today, I'm going to kind of try and do that. That's more focused on reason two here today. But then reason three is to get it out to as many people as we can. So if you would share, like, subscribe, do all the social media things. We do have a phone number, 507-205-2284. My email is dave@familybankingsolutions.com. Mike's is mike at familybankingsolutions.com if you want to email either of us. And if you call that number, you'll get one of us as well. So feel free to do that. If you want to reach out on the social media platforms, you're welcome to do that too. We don't check those as often, but we do it frequently enough. It won't be your most efficient option. Put it that way. Give us a call, shoot us an email. That's best. All right. So if you clicked on this, you might have already read the title. Can $1 do two jobs at once? Which that's kind of the premise of the discussion. So let me give you some context and background, talking with somebody, and they essentially said, so Dave, what I'm hearing is you're telling me that my dollar can do two jobs at once. And I took a pause and I was like, yeah, that's essentially what IBC does. And it was a cool way to think about it. I hadn't framed it with that vernacular and that semantics yet. I think that's a really good way to look at it. So I wanted to kind of expound on that in this episode, and then talk about some notes I took around each of those things, those thoughts that I had. So the first thing is let's talk about the single job nature of a dollar within conventional understanding. That was really fancy. Most people understand a dollar to do one job, and that is to be a dollar. So if you take a dollar to 7-Eleven, my kids want Slurpees all the time. I don't know why that came up as an example, but it did. If you take a dollar, let's say Slurpees are a dollar. I don't think they are anymore. Maybe back when I was a kid, that's what you got, the big giant one for $1. But if you use that dollar to buy a Slurpee, that's the singular nature of that dollar. It's used to buy a Slurpee. It acts as an intermediary. I mean, you can get into the banking concepts of what a dollar does. In fact, I got into a little bit with my boy. He's 7. He's like, "Why can you hand somebody a piece of paper and get what you want?" I'm like, well, that's a deep that's a deep answer there, bud. But I say all that because most people understand that a dollar is a dollar. So it has a single job. So if you go spend it, it buys you a commodity that you have chosen to purchase. If you save it, then it can you have your money make money. It can sit there. It needs to continue to sit there. But as it does, you make some money slowly, slowly, slowly. And hopefully over time it grows. Oftentimes, if you're using your dollar to get rich quickly, it often does not work, it does sometimes. But people understand the singular nature of dollars, okay, of a singular dollar. So I put down here, if you spend it, it's gone. If you save it, it sits idle until it's used. So like if you just put it in a savings account, or I mean, you can visualize a single dollar in the shoebox. I know we say that quite a bit on this podcast, but if it's in a shoebox under your bed, it just sits there. If you invest in it, it's locked in and it's not liquid. Oftentimes, when you put things into a qualified plan, a 401k, you name it, all the letters and all the numbers of all the investments, it's not liquid. It sits there. It does its singular job of making you money, but it's not liquid. So there's a lot of downsides to that. And I think we've covered those on this podcast, so I'm not going to jump down into them. But I wrote down here, and it's a rhetorical question, but why do we accept such limitations? Which you may be thinking, that is an asinine question, Dave. That's crazy. Accept these limitations. That's what a dollar does. So really, let's flip that and ask the question, if I could have a dollar do two jobs at one time, would I want to do that? And I think unequivocally, people would say, well, duh. Not to be too informal, but yes, I would like that. If my job can do two jobs at one time, would I have it do that? And I think people would say yes. And that's when IBC comes into the mix. So IBC kind of reframes that use of money. It it allows the person, so again, doing two jobs at one time, it allows the owner of a life insurance policy. And let me take a pause here too. I get questions often, well, can I leverage cash value in this capacity or do this with, yes, you can. IBC it's a concept, the infinite banking concept. Okay. So it's a theory, it's an ideology, how to leverage your money. And you can do it through different things. But Mike has thoroughly vetted me and taught me that the best method to do this is a whole life policy, especially designed. So that's a qualifier. It's a specially designed whole life policy. Any whole life policy, this will, like any random one, it's not going to work. You have to specially design these things. And often the qualifier with that is it's these policies are designed to be much better for the client than for the agent. So let's keep that in mind. I've run situations where policies that have been used for quote unquote IBC are much better for the agent in terms of commission than they are for the client. So these specially designed ones need to be focused on the client and they need to be specifically designed to leverage IBC. But I got down that road because the best method for IBC is to leverage them through a specially designed whole life policy. But within that, your dollar has two roles, and those roles are done simultaneously. In other words, they're done at the exact same time. Every dollar of premium you put in stays in the ledger and continues to make you an internal rate of return, as well as dividends and interest. So it stays there and it continues to make you money. It also is able to be leveraged in terms of cash value to go do what you need to do. But the caveat in this is you got to kind of free your mind. I sound like the Matrix. That's not my intent. And this is not a red pill, blue pill situation if you've seen the Matrix. That's a good movie. So if you haven't, don't watch it with your kids, but it's interesting. I liked it. But I say this because you got to kind of open your mind up broader than the singular nature of what a dollar can do and think, is there a possibility my dollar can stay there making me interest? They're going to give me credit for that dollar. It stays there making me money. But at the same time, I can leverage that same dollar and I can go use it to pay my bills, to put into my business. And the answer is yes in IBC. It does two jobs at one time, which is really weird to think about, but essentially that's what's happening. So the mechanism, some notes I put down here, the premium dollars build cash value. So we talked about that. It stays on the ledger. So that's the word I tend to use. It stays on the ledger, making you money. It's building cash value. That same dollar continues to grow with dividends and interest. But then at the same time, the policyholder can leverage the cash value via policy loans. So the money, most people understand loans. A savings account's really easy. Put the money in, that same money, if you use it, that ledger goes down and you go use it. The singular nature of the dollar. A loan is I'm using somebody else's money. In this case, you're using collateral against your own money, which is, I mean, exactly what you're supposed to be doing, but that money stays in the ledger. It's as if you've never taken that loan out and continues to make you an internal rate of return as well as dividends and interest. So your money's making money while at the same time you're using it. Often the question, or let's use a strong word, the argument is, well, I have to pay back those loans. The answer is not really. You don't have to, but if you want to have your money make money faster, the answer is yes. You pay you're the bank, you pay yourself back, and that decreases what I call the drag on your policy. So the money it's making is not going to offset, let's say, the money you owe for borrowing the policy. So as you pay that back, it decreases the drag. So your money continues to grow exponentially. And if you extrapolate that over 20 years and you understand how mathematics works in terms of money, that means a great deal when you're talking about uninterrupted exponential growth. Um, so I'm kind of getting in the weeds a little bit. The goal is to kind of reframe the thinking, $1 doing two jobs. So it really kind of helped me. I talked with my wife about it. She liked the idea as well. She understands IBC fairly well, but she's like, oh, that makes sense to me. So figured it was worth sharing. Um, I have down here just talk about a story. I didn't write a story I wanted to talk about, but the thought, I mean, we leverage this in our land business. So I've talked about this before. We take investor money, and rather than just taking that investor money and going buy land, we run it through our policy. That money stays in the ledger. So now I'm making in my name, you know, an internal rate of return, dividends and interest. But then we borrow against that cash value. We go buy land like we were going to anyway. But now I have money making the same money. So this is actually a great example. That investor money, that singular dollar from the investor, I ran through my policy and then I went and bought land with it. It's making me money in two spots. It's doing two different things at the exact same time. So it sounds kind of too crazy to be true, but I mean we're a walking testament to how it happens. And then as we make money, our land business, we pay it back. We pay the loan back. So it decreases the drag on the money I'm making, but I'm using investor money to, let's say, front the premium, then go use it, make money in my land business, and then I pay myself back. Excuse me. We pay our investor back. I mean, that's an important note in this whole thing. They get a monthly P&I return, principal and interest return. Anything that comes out, that's in addition to that, we put back into our policies to decrease the drag. So that's an example, a story of how that same dollar is being used at the same time. In traditional banking, I mean, take the IBC out, investor loan, go buy land. I have to pay interest back. A lot of times they're structured 18 months interest only. And then the next 18 months we pay principal and interest back to get us back to even, for lack of a better term. That's a traditional loan. Non-traditional is me running it through IBC, becoming my own banker with that, paying the investor back, but now I have that money forever. Forever. I mean, forever, making me dividends and interest, and then I pay myself back. So the goal is we're gonna stop having to borrow investor money. I'm gonna build a pool, a pot of money in here that anytime land comes available, and it comes off often more than maybe people understand. There's always opportunity to buy vacant land. So if you're interested in that, you can talk to me about that too. But to use our own banking system rather than an investor and having to pay them back interest on top of the principal we borrowed, we just borrowed from our own bank. They're fronting the initial steps for our policies. I mean, these things are 4 or 5 years old at this point, so we're getting to the good stuff. The initial years, it's a little tougher because you can only use a certain amount of that cash value, and I think we've talked about on here as well. But the pool of money we're just gonna to leverage in our own banking system to go buy land, sell it, put the money back in, maybe yeah, save some of it, start another policy, buy more land. I mean, we're just gonna recycle that money over and over and build a business. But all the while, that money is making me dividends and interest, even though I've gone to purchase land. So I I'm stuttering here because it's kind of the same example I use all the time, but it's one that's at the forefront of my face here because that's the business we're running. We buy and sell land, and you need capital to buy land. I know there's a novel idea, but you need money to purchase land, and there's more land to be purchased than we have money. So we get investors involved, and we use that investor money to run and fund our policies, and then we go use it as we would to buy the land. So certainly no breach of contract. We're gonna do the same thing we were going to anyway. I just have a stop off, and that money will forever be making me dividends and interest. So I'm leveraging someone else's money to go do that, which is an interesting twist to this whole thing as well. Certainly don't have to do that. Um, but if you can, let's say you're not in business, you can think of it as, I need to pay my home insurance. It's $1,000 a year. So if you save up what is that? $80 a month, a little more than that, I think, if my math is correct. You can write me and tell me I'm wrong. But let's say $85 a month, you save that up, you get that $1,000 in the ledger, you can borrow against that cash value and go pay your home insurance just like you would anyway. But now you have $1,000 making dividends interest. Then you fund that back, $85 a month for the next year. If you get a couple $100 here or there and you want to decrease the drag on your policy, I would highly recommend it. Put that money back in. But now you're starting to pool your money. You got to reserve up for something later. But it's continually, uninterruptedly making you dividends interest. And as that thing compounds over 20, 30 years, your $85 a month turns into a significant amount of money by the time it's all said and done. So if you think about doing this on a kiddo, I love to use my kids as an example because they all have policies. When our trust leaves, the opportunity for this money to get leveraged from these policies, we're talking hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for my kids to go out and hopefully do good in the world. That'll be the goal. Bless somebody else. I'm happy if they want to bless their family, but the world is bigger than just your own family. So how can this money be leveraged? And we put parameters around that. But my goal in talking about that is the nature of time. And if you understand money, you understand how time impacts that. Again, especially the uninterrupted compound growth. So things that two jobs at once doesn't mean. So just some other thoughts. It's not doubling your money instantly. That is not the case. So it's not as if you have $1 here and $1 here. I turn $1 into $2. That's not what I'm trying to get at. What I am trying to get at is that singular dollar is doing two jobs at one time. Doesn't mean you've doubled your money, but it continues to make you dividends, interest, and internal rate of return in your policy, and then you can go leverage it somewhere else. It's doing two jobs at once, but it doesn't mean you've doubled your money instantly. This is certainly not a get rich quick scheme. It's also not magic, and it's not a loophole. I mean, I I can introduce you to a lot of people that are leveraging this. Joe was on last week. Joe's been doing this for 50 years. I think he's been in the business. If I remember correctly, he's been doing this for like 30 years, IBC. But he mentioned on the podcast, he puts in hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And as soon as he does that, because these policies have matured to the point that they have, as soon as, let's say, $100,000, he puts in $100,000. Now he has $300,000 in cash value because this policy has matured. Well, you do that with hundreds of thousands of dollars, you can see how that compounds. So you can then either take the excess money and start another policy, do it again, which would probably be a good idea. But you can fund a lot of things. You can go do a lot of good. You can help a lot of churches. You can help a lot of 501c3s. You can do a lot of good stuff by your dollar being put on the ledger, continuing to make money. But as those things mature, that dollar instantly turns into two or three. So at that point, yes, you're doubling your money, but the policy has to have time to mature. That is not what I'm talking about here. I'm talking about the dollar doing two jobs. So if you're just starting your policy, you are not doubling your money. Your dollar is just simply doing two jobs at once. And that is the whole goal. So if you can continue to use it to save while at the same time going to do what you're going to do anyway with your money, that's the two jobs. And then as that ledger continues to grow, that first roll, that's when as your policy matures, you start putting money in, then you're doubling and tripling and quadrupling your money because time has done its job with the exponential growth. Um, um, I pulled this from somebody else. I thought it was an interesting premise. I'll say it in here. I'm debating whether or not how well it fits, but hey, we're informal. We're going to go for it. It says this system allows dollars to be more productive by eliminating lost opportunity cost. So opportunity seems to find those who have resources and capital. So I say that because as your money stays in the ledger and as you're, repaying yourself, you're building that pool of money, opportunity will find you. So then it's your job to determine whether that opportunity is worthwhile. That's a different discussion. But if it is worthwhile, and oftentimes opportunity is, if you know the correct people, then at that point you have the means and and the money to go seize that opportunity, for lack of a better term. But that kind of is down the road. I put in here kind of enforces the thinking that your dollar is doing two jobs at once. Because if you're continuing to save and then you're paying yourself back those loans, opportunity will find you, and you'll have the means to leverage and seize that opportunity to then have your money, continue to snowball and make itself more money as you keep going. That's how these rich guys do it. I'm not there yet. The goal is to get there. Um, I'm laughing because I'll say Mike's there because he's not here right now to defend himself. But Mike very much understands how having money allows opportunity to be seized, and he's very good at identifying quality opportunities. Certainly, there's some risk left, but to understand what that risk entails, to mitigate it to a certain extent, and then to go seize that opportunity, he is very good at. So just maybe food for thought. So I think I've said all I wanted to say. IBC, the dollar can serve two purposes simultaneously. So again, as you first start these policies out, keep in mind that your dollar is doing two jobs, making you money, as well as it's going to be used for the things you were going to use it for anyway. So that's really kind of a cool concept. It gets away from the singular nature of what a dollar does. So yeah, and with that, I wrote down here, I would encourage everybody to re-examine how your money is currently working. So this brings into something we say quite a bit. IBC is not mutually exclusive. It's not this or this. It's not one thing or the other. IBC is leverage your money in a policy and then go do with it what you want. I just had another discussion this week with someone who, well, Dave, I think investing in this area is a better way. I said, hold on, we need to kind of reframe this. IBC is not one or the other. Put your policy, or put your money into a policy, excuse me, borrow against your cash value. If you know you're going to go make money, again, we just talked about Mike doing this. This person had a good opportunity. Go leverage your money, and as you make money, pay yourself back, increase that pool, but then you're going to have more. So let's say they borrowed $5,000 to go do it, and they're going to make seven. Well, put your $5,000 back in there to decrease the drag, have your exponential growth be as fast as it can be. But then you have $2,000 to go do with what you want. All the while, that $5,000 was making you dividends and interest as if you had never borrowed it to go do with what you were going to anyway. So we made $2,000. We refunded our policy for the next $5,000 opportunity. And I have $2,000 that I can take my wife on vacation or buy my kid golf clubs, or who knows, whatever you want to do with it. Or you start another $2,000 policy and you just keep recycling that. And that's how people, again, Mike has 15, 16 of these. That's how people get as many as they do. I should have asked Joe last week how many he had. I don't know if he would have answered that, but I'm pretty sure Joe Pantozzi has more than Dave Parmley. We'll put it that way. But that's what people do. They continue because that money stays in the ledger. They put their money in the policy and then they go do with what they would anyway, but it continues to make money. And as hopefully you can see as that snowballs, it makes a dramatic difference in terms of legacy wealth. It's a big deal. Just looking through my notes here. So, final sentence: infinite banking allows your dollar to keep growing while also being used. And that's something traditional banking won't let you do. So, I think it's a good place to end. Not to harp on banks, but that's kind of the purpose of this podcast, is to harp on banks. There's some great people in banking. I have a great relationship with our local banker down here. It's a major bank. We run our businesses as well as our foundation through a local bank. Got a great relationship with them. But anytime I talk about this stuff, he asked me, how do you learn this? I said, well, you gotta listen to podcasts, gotta know the right people. Hopefully Mike and I can be those people for you. Joe's on last week. We got another person coming on, Yvonne Burke, next week. Joe and Yvonne would be happy to talk with you as well. So there's certainly a trust component to this. You kind of have to make sure that the person you're working with is doing you correctly, giving you the correct policy. But my hope is this podcast can at least help educate to ensure that that's happening. And if you still have questions, ask. I don't know. I try and say it different ways. We're just normal dudes that want to help out. I understand that can be hard to believe. I completely understand that. But I guess I would ask that you give us the opportunity to prove that to you. Reach out, have a conversation. Continue to have. My goal is to continue to have people on that either are starting off. Try to get my brother on. Will, if you're listening, we're gonna get you on. He's brand new, starting off. I'd love to get him on and get his take of what he thinks about it. He's done his work. He's done his studying, um, and they're starting in the process. So excited about that for him. But he would be a great person to interview. Like where are some hangups you're still at? Where were some hangups you had before? Where's your skepticism moving forward? I think that would resonate with people listening. So I say all that. Thank you for tuning in. Again, we have emails, Dave at familybankingsolutions.com, Mike at familybankingsolutions.com. Phone number is 507-205-2284. You can find all those socials in the show notes. But my hope is just to kind of reframe. The goal of this episode was to help you rethink your thinking. Joe talked about that last week. That was a big push from Nelson Nash to rethink your thinking. So that's kind of the goal today. Can a single dollar do two jobs at one time? And I would advocate that it can, and that's what IBC does. So looking forward, already got to organize for next week. I got an interview with Yvonne Burke. It's going to be a great one. She has been doing IBC as long as Joe has, but she's got a spicy side, to put it that way. She just tells it how it is, and I really appreciate that about her. So I'm excited to share that with you as well. And then the one after that, we got a good one coming up as well. So appreciate your time. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next one.